Basically, Biden, and up until this point, because Trump saved the steel industry and he saved the aluminum industry in his first term,
impact on all this?
Well, this trade war just went global.
Yeah.
The 25% tariffs on aluminum and steel coming into the country took effect at midnight. And as you mentioned, so many things are made with steel and aluminum. And if you just look at all the countries that we import steel and aluminum from, I mean, there they are. And that is a big, big number. Also, to point out that
Now, I want y'all to realize something, that just right before Trump became president of the United States of America, one of the things that Biden was doing was trying to sell off our steel industry as though we have not given everything.
That's a bold-faced lie, Anton Daniels. There were some steel wall that wasn't used when Trump lost the presidency. Biden put an end to the wall, to the rest of the wall that Trump wanted to build, and there was a lot of steel beams just laying around. So Biden was selling those beams off. Stop lying, Anton Daniels, because you know I'm here. I'm going to catch you, and you know if I got to get you, I'm going to get you.
To every other country and owners within our countries that are from other places, so that we can ultimately shut it down and then having them basically import everything over to us. So basically, Biden, and up until this point, because Trump saved the steel industry and he saved the aluminum industry in his first term, up until this point, we've been basically selling off the United States of America. Now, of course, you're going to have a bunch of women on CNN saying, oh my God, I can't believe it. Look, we import steel for everything. Guess what happens? We bolster our own workers, our own steel mills, our own small towns. We bolster what's happening in Pittsburgh. We save the industries in Gary, Indiana. We save the industries in Dearborn, Michigan. We save the Midwest. We save what's happening down there in Baltimore. We save what's happening over there at the docks and the ports over on the West Coast. We now can focus on what's best inside of the United. If you want to ship cheaper products over here than we can make for ourselves, that is problematic.
Well, if it's so problematic, Anton Daniel, why don't Trump just shut it down altogether? Don't accept any steel or aluminum for any country. F the tariff. Just stop accepting steel and aluminum from them and produce it here in America. You talked about Dearborn, you talked about Baltimore, you talked about all these places, these states that produce steel and aluminum. Just fire those aluminum and steel plants up and we make our own. Why are we still accepting any steel or aluminum from other countries? Why is that, Anton Daniels? Why are we still accepting aluminum and steel from other countries? You know I know the reason why.
Our products need to be serviced by our people here in the United States of America. Why is that such a difficult concept for y'all to get?
It's not a difficult concept for me to get. It seems to be a difficult concept for Trump to get. Because if what you're saying is true, and if what Trump is saying is true, that we don't need aluminum and steel from these other countries, then why aren't we producing it ourselves? Just like Trump said, we don't need oil from Canada.
Always become a state, and if you're a state, we won't have a deficit, we won't have to tariff you, et cetera, but Canada has been very tough to deal with over the years, and it's not fair that we should have a $200 billion or $250 billion deficit. We don't need them to make our cars, and they make a lot of them. We don't need their lumber because we have our own forests, et cetera. We don't need their oil and gas. We have more than anybody.
That the U.S. doesn't need Canadian oil, but now he's calling for the revival of Keystone XL. Is this decision a strategy to make the U.S. energy independent, or is it a big mistake?
After insisting the U.S. does not need Canadian energy, Donald Trump is renewing the call to build the Keystone XL pipeline.
After being re-elected, Donald Trump made a decision that surprised many. He returned to the idea of reviving the Keystone XL project. This is completely contrary to his previous statements, when he had asserted that the U.S. didn't need oil from Canada. But why this change? After the Biden administration canceled the permit for the project in 2021, Trump argued that restoring Keystone would help the U.S. achieve energy independence and reduce reliance on OPEC countries. He even called Biden's decision devastating to the economy and demanded that companies begin construction immediately. Canada is the largest supplier of crude oil to the U.S., accounting for about 60% of total oil imports, equivalent to more than 4 million barrels per day. Heavy oil from Canada is crucial for U.S. refineries, especially when it suits the refineries specialized in processing heavy crude from oil sands. Although cheaper, crude oil from Canada is an essential component in the U.S. energy supply chain. Therefore, restoring Keystone will help maintain this stability.
President Trump looking to revive the Keystone XL pipeline project. It was axed on President Biden's first day in office due to the opposition from environmental activists. Fired pipeline worker.
Although restoring Keystone XL could bring thousands of jobs and help the U.S. reduce its reliance on energy from unstable countries, environmentalists and indigenous communities have a different perspective. They are concerned that the extraction of oil sands will increase greenhouse gas emissions, which will exacerbate the effects of climate change. The protests from indigenous communities are also very strong. They are concerned that building Keystone will threaten their traditional lands and their sacred areas, especially when the pipeline will pass through regions like the Nebraska Sand Hills, where there is a significant risk to important water sources. Extracting oil sands from Alberta could produce emissions up to 81% higher than conventional crude oil. This not only impacts the environment, but also causes the U.S. to go against its commitments to reduce greenhouse gas emissions under international agreements like the Paris Agreement on climate change. Many studies have shown that if oil extraction from sands is not reduced, the U.S. may not meet its goal of cutting emissions by 50% by 2030. The Keystone XL project also faces strong opposition from indigenous communities. These groups argue that the project infringes on their rights, as the pipeline will pass through their lands, potentially causing serious damage to their cultural, religious, and traditional heritage.